Welcome to the BamPod. All right, welcome in everybody to another exciting episode of the BamPod. On the line tonight, we have done it. We have went out and we found a 10-time Bassmaster Classic qualifier. We have found a man who won the Bassmaster Circuit. Has won well over $1 million on the MLF. He has 9 wins to his name, over $2 million in his pocket in winnings. He is a big fish specialist. Let's bring him on right now, Mr. Ish Monroe. Ish, welcome to the show, my friend.
How's it going?
Good, man. I have, we've had you on a while ago. It's been too long, and I said, you know what? Spring is coming, and I need a guy who likes to go out there and catch some big fish. And you were the first guy that I thought of right off the bat, man. This should be a good show. You know, we're calling this Attacking Spring with Ish Monroe, and you're one of those guys. You know, I remember back in the day that you were one of those guys that was throwing the big big
Tubes.
gets it and the big, those big baits on the beds. You know, you were kind of the innovator of throwing those big things up there. That, you know,
Yeah.
some may debate that, but I think that's the way it was when I was back in those days fishing. That you were the first guy that I really remember doing that kind of stuff. You know, the way you approached it, how you went about doing it, you know, all that. But spring, you know, they're not on the beds yet, and we're looking at spring right now. And that
Right.
means
Yep.
that these fish are going to start thinking that way. You know, I
Yes,
just
they
got,
are.
you know, 2 weeks ago, I had Marty Lawrence on here. We were talking with him, and he was talking about going down to Pedro. I know you'll probably be up there for at least one of the events. I mean, we've got them back to back this year.
Yeah, I'll be there for both of them.
Yeah, all right. And you know, and that's one of those things that's a big fish lake. A lot of people know of it being a big fish. And he was talking about, you know, those fish are starting to think about the whole spawning issue. I don't know if they'll be on the beds there yet. I mean, the water temperature is still 48 degrees, so it's got a little ways to go before they're right up there. But
Right.
let's just start this thing off and talk to you a little bit about that. You know, how is it that you go from this winter transition of cold, the fish are on the bottom, they're stuck to the bottom, they don't want nothing, and all of a sudden now water's starting to warm up, they're starting to get a little, you know, belly on them, and they're going, hey, I got to get these things out of me
Yes.
soon.
Yes, they do.
You know, what is your main approach when you go from winter to spring?
Well, I mean, obviously, you want to start using reaction bait to kind of see where the fish are leading up to. Hopefully, I'm getting a bunch of followers because if you're getting followers, that means there's a lot of fish in the area, and then you're starting to head to the spawning flats.
And when you talk about the spawning flats, I mean, is this so these fish right now, what are they? I mean, I can't, you know, you're not going to know exactly where they're sitting, but what are they doing right now? And in the wintertime like this, it's you know,
Well,
they're
it
what
might
are
be
they doing?
winter where you're at, but down here it's not winter. I mean, it was dang near 70 degrees today. The lows are in the 50s, the low 50s. I mean, that to me is full springtime weather. It's not wintertime anymore. I mean, we kind of jumped from winter straight into that springtime weather. And these fish, they were already kind of, we never really had a winter. I
Right.
mean, the water temperature, I had been out on Pedro a few times, December, January, and the water temperature was 55 to 58 degrees.
Wow.
And to me, that's not wintertime conditions. Usually, if you're talking wintertime conditions, those water in the low 50s, high 40s. And so I'm just kind of trying to figure out, like, did they ever really have a winter? And I don't think they did. I think we jumped right into basically pre-spawn and dang, they're going to be close to spawning. I mean, this week coming up for the pro-am, they'll be right at that tip of the pre-spawn mode. You probably see some cruisers out there cruising around, getting ready. And by the time we show back up for the Super 60, it's going to be probably a full, wide open bedfish bite.
Uh, well, that'll be fun. You know,
Yes.
when we talk about this a little bit now, I don't, you know, I'm pretty sure Pedro has spots and largemouth. Does it have smallmouth in it? I'm not positive.
There's a few
Okay.
occasional tricklers around, but I mean, you're focusing on the largemouth and the spots both because
Okay.
there is some really big spots in the lake.
And that's, you know, and that's one of the things I was going to ask you is this time of year, is it what's the easier fish to target. I mean, I know the people want that 10, 11, 12 pound largemouth that's out there, but there are also some really nice 6, 7, 8 pound spotted bass that, you don't hear across the
Oh,
country. You hear about them here in California.
yeah, no, definitely. We have multiple 5 and 6 pound spots. I mean, you saw what happened at Shasta. I mean,
Mm.
multiple big spots, and there was some big largemouth weighed in. I think a lot of guys are going to catch a lot of those big spots, but there is going to be some big largemouth because we are in that time frame where they are getting hungry and feeding up to get prepared for, laying those eggs.
All right. When you're, is there, I don't know, are you a swim bait guy? Is this the time of year
Yes,
that, we've talked to a bunch of guys that have been swim bait guys. And is that something you're going to have in your arsenal going into this tournament?
have swim baits rigged up and ready to go because that's how you big fish. I mean, Alex is an amazing swim bait guy, and he'll be hard to beat if he figures out how to catch those big fish. But we've fished here a couple times, and we've watched them where the big fish will get kind of scarce, and they'll follow the bait, but they won't eat it. And if that happens, then you don't catch them. But then there's some guy going down the bank throwing drop shot and catches a 10 pounder
Right.
for a jig.
Yeah, and that it's funny because that's what we were kind of talking. I was talking about Marty Lawrence about that same thing. Is what's he kind of like, and he's talking about that jig bite being so good. And I know there was I know a lot of people fish jigs on that body of water. Like that is a big known thing down there. Is the jig bite, and it's such a I feel like it's such a stark competition. I don't want to say competition. It's just it's like swim bait, jig, two different things, completely different. Those fish are going to be feeding up on either one of them. But
Yes.
do you feel like there's a difference? Like, hey, you know what, if you're bottoms fishing, if you're slow moving, you're not really looking to win that thing. Do you have to be throwing those big reaction and moving baits to win?
No, not at all. Once again, like I said, there'll be a guy. I bet you there's a guy in the top 10 throwing a Ned rig, a Nico rig, drop shot, a wacky rig Cinco down the bank, and then there'll be top 10 guy who figures out a swim bait bite. And then there'll be a top 10 guy on a jig and a top 10 guy maybe throwing a spinner bait or a top 10 guy throwing a crankbait out there. I mean, there's going to be the jig head minnow. I mean, we can't forget about that. Is it's become super popular, and it is kind of the way to catch bass now on a lot of different lakes. Guys aren't even just necessarily using it if we're facing sonar. I've been watching some videos of people just going out there throwing the jig head minnow and catching bass.
Okay. I mean, and that's kind of talking about what we were talking about, being everywhere and, just attacking spring in general. I mean, these fish are going to be
Yes.
transitioning. They're going to be checking, up, and it doesn't matter if you're on Pedro, and I don't want to get pigeonholed just to that. I know that tournament's coming up, but I know you're there,
Right.
you're doing it. But I mean, let's talk about lakes like Clear Lake. That's a lake right now that I think is going to be kicking off. Let's talk about, you're all over the country.
Yes.
Are you going to be at Gunnersville?
Yeah, I won't be at Gunnersville. I'm going to actually be at Kentucky Lake next week.
Okay.
The conditions are a little bit different. They're a little bit more closer to the wintertime conditions. I mean, the highs are in the low 50s and the lows are in the 40s. So that's definitely wintertime conditions for there in that place. But Clear Lake, once again, swim bait bite to win tournaments, jig bite to win tournaments, jerkbait bite to win tournaments,
Yeah.
jig head minnow to win tournaments. Clear Lake is just a different animal. There's so many different ways to catch a 30-pound bag. And then once again, back to a guy will catch a 30-pound bag on a drop shot or a Ned rig or a Nico rig or something that I necessarily don't want to throw, but you never know how the bite's going to be. I mean, Clear Lake's is a phenomenal lake, but the jerkbait bite is definitely going to get exciting. And, the jerkbait does well when the lake gets pressure on it. I mean, Pedro is a pretty decent sized lake overall. I'm not sure how many we have at the Pro-Am, but, when we have 70 guys in the Super 60, it's going to definitely be not as pressured as most people think it's going to be.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big enough lake that 60 boats isn't gonna. It's definitely not gonna. It's gonna eat them up. You're
Yes.
not gonna have to be fishing on top of one another
Yeah.
for sure. And it's not kind of like Thermalito where you're looking at everybody else fishing and how they're doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That
you'll be
was
out there a little bit.
definitely an interesting um, deal, Thermalito, when you're looking at guys going past guys, in front of guys, around guys, and yeah,
I think it's a good fishery, but I think when you get anything over about 30 boats on there, it just doesn't going to handle
right,
it.
100%.
Yeah, not like Pedro, not like Clear Lake. And let me ask you one other one because I know you're pretty well known for this one too. Is the Delta this time of year? How do you go at the Delta in with this kind of weather, with this cold water, because that's a river system, and it's always moving.
Yes. And it's dirty because of all that rain. You got to remember,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're still getting rain up north, and so all that water that's rushing in to the Sacramento River is coming down the river right now, and they're pumping out the lakes as well because they still got more the spring melt that comes down, and so there's a lot of water coming into the system, and the water's real dirty on the Delta, but it is warming up, and for me, when it gets warm like that, that big spinnerbait, that big chatterbait, and flipping is definitely the way to go when you're wanting to catch big ones on the Delta. I mean, there's nothing better than that, we call it lemonade with the twist, and it's that red blade with that big gold Indiana blade on the back of a white and chartreuse spinnerbait and a big missile bait spunk shad trailer on the back, winding that thing down through there. I've had multiple top tens at this time of year recently in the last couple of years, throwing that bait when that water's been dirty because we've had a lot of rain these last couple of years. Pedro stays pretty clear overall, and we've washed out all that kind of silt and muck, and so you got a lot of good hard bottom. But the Delta still muddy and a lot of mud running through the system right now, and so that spinnerbait to me is definitely going to be the way to go.
Yeah, that's that's one of those bodies of water that I think a lot of people don't like in the winter. We've had some tournaments there, and it can be a tough bite in the winter. But like you said, if you're throwing that spinner and reaction bait this time of year, does that really start to be where you focus on? I know you're a reaction bait guy, anyways. I mean, that's just kind of like everybody knows that's what
Yeah,
you do. You're not one of those guys going to pick up a drop shot and go down the bank a lot. Now, I'm not saying you won't. I'm just
right,
saying it's not your forte.
right.
So this time of year with this spring coming on, is that your just go to in general? Is, hey, I'm putting something I can move, and I'm moving it and going down the bank.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're trying to locate the fish. The fish are in a transition moving momentum themselves. I mean, they're trying to go from deep to shallow and getting ready to spawn. And right now, reaction baits helps you find those fish that are either still deep, still shallow, and in between because you get to cover a lot of water.
Now, once you find them, do you kind of pick up something a little slower and really go at them, or is it more of like, you know what, I don't care. I'm just gonna once I find them, I hit them with that bait. I'm just gonna keep hitting them with it.
Well, it depends on how things are going. If they're still just eating it and chewing it, then I'm just going to keep continuing going down the bank. But if it's one of those deals where I haven't had a bite for a little while and all of a sudden I get in an area and I catch them, that means that there's fish in that area and you definitely have to slow down to catch those fish.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at, I'm just trying to look at somebody that doesn't get to fish quite as much as you going out there and like, what do it's like, hey, this is what you're going to put in your hand. This is what you want to go out there and do. And, it's a tough one for
I mean, if I was,
transitions in general are always tougher for people to fish, right? I mean, it's not the easiest to figure out that, oh, they've
yeah,
been sitting in 25 feet of water. Now they want to be in 4 feet of water.
right.
How do you find those is probably the biggest thing about attacking, springtime like this is, how do you, it's like, how do you find those fish other than just covering bank? And I think that's what you've been saying is that pick something up that's moving a lot of water, makes a lot of noise, and cover as much water as you possibly can until you find them.
We're going to take a short commercial break and talk to you about one of our great sponsors, StoreQuest Self Storage. They're here to help you get your garage back. As an outdoor enthusiast, you have gear, lots of expensive gear, equipment, boats, trailers, and vehicles, probably all stored in your garage. You need a storage space that's easy to access, secure, and climate controlled. And that's where StoreQuest comes in. Head over to storequest.com. Plus, members, Receive an exclusive 10% discount with the offer code BAM10. That's BAM 10. StoreQuest is the official self-storage partner of the BAM Tournament Trail. Now, back to the BamPod.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if I was going to a lake right now, I'd have a jerk bait tied up, a spinner bait tied up, a deep diving crankbait tied up, such as a tactical crank from river to sea, a square bill tied up as the Big E series square bill that I like to throw, a link spinner bait tied up. But then on the flip side of it, is I would have a missile mini flip jig by Ike. So if I needed to flip and pitch that around, I'd have a full size big jig, and then just a normal casting jig as well, and mixing it up with a Nico and a drop shot, just in case I get in the area and you get those cold fronts still pushing through and backs those fish off, and using the reaction to find those fish. And yeah, definitely, if they're slowing down on the reaction, putting that bottom bouncing bait or something down there to get those fish to trigger. But then if I'm looking for a big bite, yeah, I've got a big glide bait tied on like a river to CS Waver 200, and I've got a Huddleston tied up. I've got a ish tube or tor tube tied up as well, and having a big bait ready to go for those fish.
All right. I mean, it is, again, is that something that I guess, do you target fish differently when it comes to spotted bass, largemouth? When you're out there, I mean, I know they're a different fish in general in the way they eat, but right now, I mean, there's lakes like Orville, there's lakes like Shasta where, mentally you're probably going to be going up there looking for spotted bass for the most part. But they're a big largemouth in both of those bodies of water.
Yes.
But it's one of those things that if you've got a spotted bass, I think the last time we talked to you, you were really float and fly kind of thing. Is that
but that's
still
a winter
something you
time,
do, or is that something you don't do in this time of the year?
For me, is I'm transitioning away from that. My deal is the float and fly is at its best when the water temperature's in 48 to 52 degrees. That's when it is fire. We didn't ever really get those water temperatures even at Shasta this year because there was so much warm weather that kept blowing through, and those storms were coming out of the south and bringing that warm rain in there. And we fished at Shasta for the first time with no snow in January. I mean, it's a pretty interesting deal when you can do that. So the float and fly to me is, there's still fish to be caught on it, but it's not something that I'm really focused on. I'll be more so focused on a big jig for a big bite. I'd rather fish for 5 big bites and catch 25 little bites.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense to me. And it's just one of those, when I look at I see the way that people look at this, like I said, I'm always trying to speak to the average guy that's out there on the water.
Yes.
I mean, speaking to tournament guys is, they're out there on the water all the time. They've got these things dialed in. If they don't, they're not winning anyway. So, but it's one of those, we're talking to the local, the guy that's like, hey, I got to work 9 to 5. I get one Saturday off a month and I'm going fishing. And this time,
God, you can't beat a Ned. You can't beat a Ned. You can't beat a drop shot. You can't beat a Nico for that guy, because he's going to catch fish.
And that's the deal, right? They're going to catch fish, but are they going to? If I want to go out now, it's like I want to go catch a big fish. Is this the time of year to really think about putting that one? Hey, I'm going to get the measurements on this one. I'm making a replica, and it's going on the wall. Is this the time of year for it?
This is definitely the time of year for your PB. I mean, once again, they are moving up to feed to get ready for the spawn. And a lot of them big fish are at that point in time. And so you're going to see multiples. I mean, gosh, we were in Texas. I heard of multiple 12 to 14 pounders being caught. And so then you see the fish, like I said, that have been weighed at Shasta the last few weeks or even month. I mean, gosh, when we have a 12 or 13 caught in Shasta as well. Whiskey Town's kicked out a big one. Pedro's kicked out a big one, I've heard. Teener. I mean, it's just been great. This is the time of year to do it.
All right. Now, let me ask you this. You have been somebody who has definitely been behind the BAM trail. You have been behind what Mark Lassane's doing. Looking forward to the Super 60. We've got a little bit of time
definitely,
here.
But 100%.
What is there one event that you're just like, this is, I can't wait to get to this one?
Of the Super 60,
Yeah, on the Super 60 this year.
that would be the championship at Clear Lake in the fall. That's the one of I mean, being in the championship, fishing for a fully rigged freaking boat. Mark's done a fantastic job with BAM and all these guys. Now it's funny, all the guys that weren't a part of it last year now will be a part of it. And there's guys that had an opportunity to be a part of it and could have got early, weren't not necessarily the greatest for qualifying for it now, and they all kind of wish that they got in. And it's pretty cool to see that. I mean, fishing all of the pro-ams. I'm going up north to fish that division as well. I'm going to fish all the pro-ams down here. I mean, they have just got a great circuit, a great payout, a great crew, great everything. I mean, it's one of the circuits that I firmly believe in. Mark's done it right. He's fixed the little issues because no tournament circuit's perfect, and he's kept the what I call the cheating down and the drama down, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's hard to pose this question right now, but I'm going to do it anyways because I can. Uh, East Coast versus West Coast right now, and the West Coast is in infant stage. We are nowhere near what we could be. Nowhere near. They've got a 50+ year advantage on us. How do you see between the East Coast tournaments, the way they're run back there, MLF, BASS, how they're run back there compared to how Mark's doing it out here? Is it comparable? And do you see a shot at us being something like that in the future?
I see, BAM being at the highest level of the Western United States guys. To me, MLF is garbage. I'll never fish any more of their events. I've kind of just, you see how they treated the Western guys. They pulled completely out. And Mark brought in, and Mark was pushing for having Western events, and so, but BAM, you've got a qualifying circuit that will basically allow you to get there, at the pro-am level, and it's a reasonably priced pro-am at under $1,000, and then you got the Super 60 at a $2,500 entry fee, but we're fishing for $50,000 cash with 70 guys. There's not really a circuit out there that pays much better than that.
Okay. I mean, that's from a guy who does all of them. That's it's good words, and that's what I want to hear. Is there really
and Bass is still Bass. Bassmasters
Yeah.
still they're still going to be the 1,000-pound gorilla. Ray Scott built that, in the late 60s, early 70s. And yeah, like you said, you can't compete with that. But for a Western standpoint, and for the Western anglers who want to have sponsors and who want to fish for big money, BAM is the perfect circuit to do that.
I like it. I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad that we're doing it the way we're doing it. I think there's some interesting tournaments coming up. In the pro-am stuff, everybody's been wanting and looking, and I don't know if you've ever been up there. Have you been to the Potholes region up there?
No, I've never been to Potholes. I've always wanted to go. I've heard so many stories. Everybody's like, it is your style of fishing. It is basically grass and reeds and flipping and wood and throwing a frog. And I'm just like, yeah, I want to do that. And then they tell me that like there's really not an advantage because when the water gets low, those sand dunes change, and so the holes in the lake and the lake changes constantly every single year, and that sounds exciting to me, and I love that. And that's the other thing about the Super 60 that I love is it's the purest form of bass fishing. It's not like we have a whole circuit of guys who fish these lakes every single day and all the time. I mean, we go Don Pedro to Mojave to the Columbia River. Trying to think of the last one after that. After Columbia, where we go? Pedro, Mojave, Columbia.
Mojave, Columbia. I don't know. I got to look at my calendar.
I gotta look at my calendar. Yeah,
yeah.
that makes me think. I mean,
I'm
but I
trying to
mean,
think.
you
What is
look at
that
that.
last one? I want to say it's not. It's not
Yeah,
Delta. Is it not? It's not the Delta, right?
is Pro-Am. Isn't it? Let's see here.
Pro-Ams.
Bam.
That's a good question. That's a
Pro-Am.
good question, and I should probably know the answer, but I'm not going to know the answer. And
Columbia, Columbia River. No, but there's a Super 60 on the Delta. That's right.
okay, it is the Delta.
So
Okay,
you take a guy that starts out the season with no practice going to Don Pedro.
right.
I live 45 minutes from Don Pedro, and I can tell you that I'm not a hammer on that place. Going to Mojave, I've been to Mojave 3 times, and my lowest finish is top 15.
Yeah,
Then you go to Columbia River. I've had some great tournaments at the Columbia, some really bad tournaments at the Columbia. And then the Delta.
yeah,
And so you were basically going from a river system, a tidal river system, a lake to another lake in the desert. It's all completely different fisheries. So the true angler of the year of the BAM Tour is the best guy in the West.
right.
And I love that.
Yeah,
With no practice, that means no practice, no help, no information.
right. Now, last year wasn't the Super 60, but what did it really say to you that a kid steps up, Luke John steps up and wins that championship?
Well, you can't even forget about Kobe Pearson, who
Oh no, I know what he did all year long.
I mean, right? He won two. He won 2 events and top 10 the other two. I top 10 all 4 events, and I think Nick Cloutier was the only other person to top 10 all the events,
believe so,
and
yeah.
we finished first, second, and third. And usually, if you top 10 every single event, you're going to win Angler of the Year. There was 3 of us that did that,
Right. Yeah, I mean,
and that's a hard feat to do.
that is a hard feat to do.
Yes.
And I think it's like I said, I think it just really points out and makes it step up that these guys are fishing against some of the best in the West. Not even some of they. Well, I mean, because there's more coming.
Yeah.
There's more coming, obviously, but they were fishing
Yes.
against the top ones that stood up and said, "We're going to do this. We're going to take and make that gamble on Mark Lassane and say yes, he's going to do the best job he can out there, and he's going to give us a great circuit," which is what he did. And
Yes.
now, then you had some of these young guys. I mean, Colby Pearson came out. He 100% had never won a major event, and he made it.
And 1-2.
He won it. Yeah, he won 2 and made a name for himself, a big
Yes.
name. I mean, he went up to, and I hate to do this to Mark every time, but I mean, come on, he went to Mark's water in his backyard,
Right.
and
Yes.
took that thing home, and it's like, ouch, that had to, Mark's a heck of a fisherman. Don't get me wrong, that guy
Yes.
is one of the best out there as well, and it's just. I see that, but I mean, again, talking to Marty Lawrence, and he's down. He told me, he goes, I live like 25 minutes away from Mojave, and
Yeah.
he's down there. But he goes, I'm not a hammer on that lake yet. He goes, I'd love to fish it more, but it's the same thing as you like living in Pedro. It's like, even though you live there, even though you're right next to that water, that doesn't mean that you're going to be fishing that. You're fishing so
Right.
many other things. Excuse me.
I mean, you had to look at it. That was the second time that I had been to Almanor
Right.
last year, and I finished in the event. I've never fished it. I literally have a total of basically 5 total days on that lake ever. I finished second in the event. I had 2 days on it prior to fishing it that last time. Now it did set up for my wheelhouses. It was sight fishing for smallmouth,
Right.
but the tournament wasn't won that way. The tournament was won, catching pre-spawners and
Right.
deep spawners that nobody even saw.
It's the moment when everything is on the line and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
Tell a new fish story with Garmin EchoMap Ultra 2 chart plotters in 10 and 12-inch models featuring traditional clear view, side view sonar. Heard about Garmin's live scope, live scanning sonar? EchoMap Ultra 2 is compatible with that also. You can even capture your favorite and best fish catches with the new screen recording feature. What more could you want? How about built-in Garmin Navionics, inland and coastal mapping? Wireless networking? Check and check. EchoMap Ultra 2. Check it out at Garmin.com or shop your local Garmin dealer.
Yep. I mean, that's I don't know. That was a good lake up there. It's a fun lake.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're going back. I think that's the
Me too.
championship this year, right?
Yes, it is. It is
Yeah.
a champ in the fall. So
In the
once
fall.
again, back a completely different venue.
Yeah, it'll definitely be different water up there. I grew up
Yeah.
fishing that water. I love it up there, and it's one of those ones that I'm glad that we're going back up there. The crowd that was there, the people that showed up,
Oh
great
yeah.
support. I don't know what it's going to be like in the fall. There's not as many vacationers up there that time of year, but it should still be a great event, and I'm hoping more people come out this year to see the events in general.
It should be a great reaction bait bite. It should be a great topwater bite. You catch some of them big smallmouth on a freaking river to sea rover in the morning walking bait, and I'm like, gosh, I'm thinking about that and catching them, on a river to sea ruckus or catch them on a square bill or something like that. I mean, I'm just excited about it all the way around, but I still got to get there.
Yep, you got to make that one.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Thinking about, when I made this phone call before before I even did it, I said, you know what, I've got to work this in. So, what time of the year? I mean, we're talking about spring. We're looking forward. We're going into this. What time of the year do you break out your bait, man? What time of the year do you break out that frog and go to town? Does this ever this time of year ever you see
We're
it?
so close. We're so close to it. We're so close to it. To me, when that water temperature tips that 58 degrees starting out in the morning, I'm on it.
Really?
And that's the biggest portion is a 58-degree water temperature in the morning because the ones you catch on it are going to be big.
What kind of numbers? If you're a guy, you're going out, you're going to go, you know what? I'm going to throw a frog today. I'm going to catch how many fish today are you going to catch on a frog? If you go out there and you're just like, you know what? I want to throw it, but I'm not expecting to catch, all my entire limit.
You're not going to catch 15. You're not going to catch 15 or 20 on it. You're going to get 5 to 7 bites probably. And if you land 5, you're going to have a giant bag.
Nice.
Most likely you're going to land 2 or 3 of them, and they're going to be real good ones. And it's just you're not expecting many big bites on it. It's almost like throwing the big swimmer at this time of year, but it's just a little bit different because you can put that bait in the places that you can't get any other bait into.
I love throwing that thing too. So this is what we're going to do for sure. Summertime's going to come along, and that's when I know the frog bite turns on.
Oh, so 100%.
Before all these frog events start going, I'm going to have you back on the show. We're going to talk to you a little bit about how you rig it, how you do it, what you change, what you don't. Do you take it right out of the package? I don't want to answer any of that right now, but we're going to do that. For one of these shows, we're going to do that, and we're going to have some Ish Monroe tricks on frogs because that's going to be something people are going to want to know for sure.
For sure.
That's
Definitely.
what you do. Throwing right now, we're going into spring, man. I think you got people a little excited about just throwing some basics out there. I don't think you have to get crazy right now, do you?
No, you don't have to get crazy. Like I said, you can pick up a wacky rig Cinco, a Nico rig, a drop shot, a spinner bait, a square bill, a jerk bait, and old school bass fishing and go out there and have a great time. And if you want to start experimenting with the jig head minnow on forward-facing sonar and active target, definitely you can do that as well.
Yeah, we've got a couple minutes before I'm going to kind of give you just give you this thing and say, hey, you know what? Tell everybody about kind of who you are. But how are you? And I don't want to go into this too far because I think people really talk about it too much. Are you a big forward-facing guy? Into it a lot? Into it? Not into it?
I'm a mix of it. I'm a mix of it. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I've had tournaments where I've done really, really well with it, and I've had tournaments where I maybe should have turned it off or used it differently to just basically get what the fish are doing. It's an amazing tool that allows you to see how fish relate and react to your baits, and it tells you a lot on what you need to change. Maybe your color's not right, the size of the bait's not right, the bait that you're throwing might not be right. I've had times where I'm throwing a drop shot and they wanted a Nico or a Ned rig. I've had times where you're throwing a square bill and they wanted a spinner bait better because you'd see them follow the square bill. There's times where the jerk bait, they wouldn't even react to it.
Hmm.
And so then you knew you had to slow down. So forward facing sonar, active target, I tell everybody you need it, use it as a tool, but at the other time, it's still fun for the anticipation of that bite.
Okay.
Because that's what fishing's about.
Do you really think that it has warranted the negativity or that it's gotten, I guess?
No, absolutely not. The evolution of fishing is, the guys that are angry are mostly the old guys who don't want to use it, or the guys who can't afford to put it on their boat.
Hmm.
And it's just one of those things is the great part about America is the harder you work, the harder you excel, the better you excel.
Yeah.
And so whether you have to work hard to get forward facing sonar to put on your boat, or you have to work hard learning how to use it to become a better angler, that's just the great part about life. And that's why I love being an American.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, it's been so been down on for so long. But I look back and almost like what you said. I mean, when the first Bassmaster Classic was on there, you watch that. These guys were using paper graphs. They were looking
Yeah.
at flashers. It's like, okay, so should we just go all the way back to that? Is that our next step? Is like, you know what, get rid of all this stuff and go back to flashers, because that's how you really know you're a fisherman. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's
bass
kind of
fishing
it too. But
in general has always gone forward, right?
yes, and that's where we need to go. It's to the point though. Is I got into bass fishing for the anticipation of the bite,
Mm-hmm.
not ever knowing. And forward facing sonar has taken a little bit of that away, but at the same time, it's also made me a better angler. And
Okay.
I've caught fish, and you can see it too. You see it in the bags that are being weighed in. We jump from where it used to be 12 pounds a day. You made a check or you made the classic, to now it's 15 pounds a day.
Right.
And that's just the evolution, that we've got better equipment, we've got better baits, we've got better sonar that helps us become better fishermen.
Yeah, I did a show, talk to Gary Klein about that very thing, about the forward facing sonar, and he said, it's really, for him, what he said was it's really changed the way we approach fishing in general. We are
Yes.
now fishing areas that we would have never thought to fish before, be-
Right.
because it's putting fish.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not putting fish differently; it's putting fish where you never would have thought they would have been.
well, no, it shows you that there are fish that you
Right.
never thought. It shows you that there are fish that just roam around in the middle of the lake.
Right.
That's all they do is roam. Like, I've watched it where these guys at Table Rock Lake, they're driving down the lake, they stop, they drop the trolling motor in the middle of the lake over 100 feet of water, and they just start scanning, and they see fish and they start catching those fish.
Have you ever seen anything like that on Clear Lake? I look at that lake and I go, you go to the south end and or the north end, or whichever end the big bowl is on.
The north end, that's the north end.
The north end. I always do that, and it's one of those things. It's like you're out there. I mean, here's this giant lake, right? And there are big, giant
Yeah.
fish in there. In the middle of that bowl, it's not that deep. It's what, 30 feet deep,
No.
40 feet deep at best. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, shouldn't there be fish out there? Does this technology give anybody an opportunity to go out there and catch fish out in the middle of that thing?
The thing about Clear Lake that makes it so special and different is it's a volcano. It's North America's oldest lake.
Right.
and their structure, those fish, I believe, are at Clear Lake are a little bit more structure orientated because of the bait that's in there. There's more crawdads in Clear Lake than there is probably in any other lake in the country as well. And so those fish feed on those crawdads a lot. They will eat some shad, which are there are very few shad in there. They will eat hitch, but hitch are also related to the structure as well. So
Hmm.
I don't think, like Table Rock, there's thousands of shad in there, gizzards and threadfin both, and those things swim in the middle of nowhere. A
Right.
lot of lakes have herring in them, and those herrings swim around in the middle of the lake. So those fish follow those. But Clear Lake, I think that the just a little bit more structure orientated because of the way that the bait sets up.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. It's just one of those things. I guess when you're coming up and fishing and you're looking at Clear Lake, you're out there fishing, you go, how is there no fish out here in this beautiful middle of this lake where there's tons of
Right.
grass still, tons of stuff? It's like, wow, it really sets up for fish, but there's just never, I never do it. But then you watch, but then you can look at
Yeah,
someplace
when
like,
they're in grass,
yeah,
yeah, there's just no grass out there. There's not really much. If you find there, I guarantee you there's some rocks out there, rock piles out there that no one has found
oh, I'm sure.
that have loads of fish on them. Loads.
Yep, it's just one of those things that you got to find the
But
right spot, I
it's hard
guess,
to
right?
map that place. It's just
Yeah.
yep, you just gotta get out there, and start graphing and mapping and using your forward facing sonar, finding something out there.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the thing when I look at the Delta, I think it's why Zach Thompson was so good out there and is still very, very good out there. He's fishing out in Frank's track and he's doing it different than a lot of people are doing it, and he's just found
Yes.
some things that he has made a career off of for sure. And it got him that nickname and
Yeah. The mayor.
yes, it got him the mayor,
And
and and he does things out there, and it's one of those things that I just every now and again I just think one of these days somebody's going to do exactly what you just said. They're going to be out in the middle of Clear Lake. They're going to find this random rock pile that no one has ever found, and
yep.
they're going to rack them up and stack 40 pounds of fish or 50 pounds of fish on it and go for one day and be like, yeah,
Yep.
don't tell anybody about that spot.
Yep. Exactly.
But yeah. Okay, Ish. Well, this is the part, we're running down to the end here. I know who you are. Most people know who you are, but it's one of those things that I like to give you this time to kind of talk about who you are, how people can follow you, how people can watch you, where you're going next, what you're doing, and this is your part to say, hey, this is Ish Monroe, and this is what I do.
Well, if you go to X, you can find me at Fish for Ish. If you go to Instagram, it's ish_Monroe. And if you go to Facebook, it is Ish Monroe Professional Angler.
Hmm.
And other than that, you can just type in Ish Monroe on YouTube, and there's a lot of stuff that'll pop up. And you can always Google a person and find guys that way. But you'll see me a lot at CNC Marine, and I spend a lot of time there, as well as Fisherman's Warehouse in Manteca a little bit. But definitely at CNC Marine all the time. If you want to go out and go for a test drive in a skeeter, go down and see Richard down there, and he'll give me a call, and I'll get you out there on the water and let you ride around in a skeeter or a Yamaha if you're interested. And I'm on the Daiwa Pro staff as well, River to Sea, which is a local company here in Northern California, and they're phenomenal and awesome. I'm always helping people out with their Lowrances. I do a lot of speaking engagements. I will be doing a high school event at Bass Pro Shops tomorrow. I mean, it's just pretty cool. Just you can find me anywhere and everywhere because I'm all over the place.
Coming up in your life, did you ever think that this would be your life when you were a young kid coming up fishing, just getting into it? Was this where you thought you'd be?
At Ford Fairfield, we'll make your ownership experience simple. Our simple price, simple process is designed to save you time by eliminating the back and forth. That means you'll always get our very best highly competitive offer right up front. No games, no gimmicks. Our goal? To provide you with an exceptional experience. Stop by or book your appointment today. Ford Fairfield, simple price, simple process.
I wanted to do something in fishing really bad, and I didn't know about professional angling until I got into it and what it really meant. I honestly thought that I was either going to be like a deckhand or a charter boat captain or a guide of some sort. But tournament fishing has been a great life and paid off, and it actually helped me to find my wonderful, beautiful wife that I love so much. And I owe a lot to fishing, and so I don't mind giving back.
You're one of the guys that when we're on tour and, we're out there, almost every event, somebody says something about, I talked to Ish in the middle of the day. He said, I should stick with this, or I should stick with that, or he just propped me up, or, and I hear a lot of that, and one of the things that me coming up in this sport the way I did, I always looked up and said, here's a guy that is doing it a very special way. He's doing it the right way, in my opinion. And I think you did a lot of things very correctly. And the way you still to this day talk about being a professional and what it takes to actually be a professional. Still the only guy that I've ever heard. I still use it the way that you talk about a professional. It's like, yeah, just because you're at the front of the boat doesn't mean you're a professional. If you,
Right.
if when you go to the IRS and you put down bass fisherman on there, then you're a professional. If you're
exactly,
if you're putting house painter on there, you're a house painter.
Right, exactly.
That likes to fish.
I mean, if you pay your mortgage every single month by bass fishing, then you're a professional bass fisherman. You pay your mortgage every single month by a house painter, then you're a house painter. It's all about, how you pay the bills. And, I've had a great career spanning, going on 27 years.
Man.
Now, I mean, in 3 years from now, I'll be basically at my 30th year of, being a professional angler.
Well, you've done a good job out there, man. You've done a great job out there. You've made a heck of a living for yourself. You've just dropped a bunch of knowledge on people out there. Again, we appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you picking up the phone and saying, yeah, absolutely, I'll do that. I know you've got a lot on your plate. You've got events coming up. You got tournaments to get ready for. And Ish, thank you very much.
Got to cook my wife dinner.
Yeah. She says you're the cook, man. I'm telling you.
No, we're doing a chicken parm tonight.
Nice. She tells me that you're the cook and you're the person that's supposed to buy her the most animals. That's all. Forget out of her.
We got four dogs and a fish and a crawdad, and we're probably going to work on a few more here this year. Cats, chickens.
Yes, you want
ducks,
some giant cat. That's all.
Yes, she wants a Maine Coon, and then right now I think we've got an owl in our owl box. So wow. I'm the definitely the animal guy.
Whether you want to be or not, you've got a wife that wants it, so you are one now.
Whether
right?
I want to be or not.
All right, man. Well, thanks.
Happy.
Well, I'll try to learn that from you then.
Yes. Learn that one. I'm telling you, you're better off when you learn that one. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks again. We're going to let you get back to it in the world. And thanks, man, for doing the show. I really appreciate it. It's a great show. And we'll see you on the tour.
Yep. Appreciate it anytime.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and listening to the show again. I hope you got a lot out of this. And if you didn't, go back and listen because Ish dropped a bunch on you. It's spring. It's getting there. Let's get this thing done. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.